What is up guys, Eric here from Real Film Reviews bringing you another movie review, this time for the new F. Gary Gary film, Straight Outta Compton. Straight Outta Compton is the story of the world's most dangerous group, N.W.A, and their rise to fame during the late 80s. This movie covers all of the ups and downs that the group went through throughout their time in the spotlight. This movie stars O'Shea Jackson Jr. as Ice Cube, which is interesting because he's actually Ice Cube's son in real life and he's always wanted to portray his father on film. We also have Corey Hawkins playing Dr. Dre, Jason Mitchell playing Eazy-E, and Paul Giamatti playing Jerry Heller, the group's manager. Now, Straight Outta Compton is not a movie I remember 100% whether it made my top 10 list, but I know for sure it was at least an honorable mention if it didn't. I am a humongous hip-hop fan, so when I heard they were making this movie, I got extremely excited, and this movie did not disappoint. This movie had great performances, and when I say great performances, I mean that one in particular, Jason Mitchell, who played Eazy-E. I'm talking possible Oscar-worthy performance. He was phenomenal in this movie. O'Shea Jackson Jr. as Ice Cube was also amazing. Paul Giamatti did an extremely good job. Really, everyone in this movie did a really good job. And I was extremely impressed because a lot of these actors are pretty much nobodies, and this maybe was their first role, but for sure their first big role on screen. This movie was also just really interesting. The story of it, it was really cool to see where they came from, what they went through, and how they got to where they are today. This movie is extremely relevant to nowadays society because if you look at everything that's going on, you can't really turn on the news without seeing something that's semi-relevant to what this movie is talking about in terms of racism and prejudice. And it's kind of amazing that they decided to make this movie now because I think it leaves a very powerful statement in everyone's minds about what's really happening out there. The movie obviously has great music. They actually were able to get all the rights for N.W.A.'s music along with a couple other artists' music that worked closely with N.W.A., which made this movie feel really authentic and good. And also the camera work. There wasn't too much flashy camera work throughout the movie, but there were a couple scenes where I felt like the way F. Gary Gary moved the camera was actually really interesting and really cool, especially in terms of the recording studio to hearing music played outside of the recording studio. I really liked the way he handled that in some of the scenes because he would cut away and it made it to where you were seeing the song being recorded, but then at the same time you were seeing people's reactions to it and it would cut back and forth, which I thought was a really interesting way to do it. The only cons I have with this movie really are Dr. Dre, the actor that portrayed him. There was one scene really where I feel like the script exceeded his abilities, which sounds bad. He did a good job throughout the whole movie, but there was one scene that was particularly supposed to be extremely emotional, and he didn't quite sell it for me. All the rest of the actors in the scene did, but he just didn't really kind of like grip me in this scene that I know should have had a lot more emotional feeling in it. He did a good job, but it wasn't as good as I felt it could have been, but that was just one scene. For the rest of the movie, he was good. And the only other thing is this movie drags just a little bit. I'm a huge hip-hop fan. I went with a friend who is a relatively big hip-hop fan, but not anywhere near the same level. So he felt like it dragged a decent amount around the 2-hour mark. The movie's 2.5 hours long, which is a pretty long movie, but it is a biopic, and it's a very good biopic. But he thought that it dragged near the end, and I can see that. It did drag a little bit for me. I feel like this movie could have been maybe like 10 or 15 minutes shorter, but I didn't feel like they included anything that was unnecessary. I feel like everything that was in the movie had a purpose, and because of that, it didn't bore me at any point. Overall, I loved Straight Outta Compton. I thought it was an amazing movie. I felt like the actors did an amazing job. I thought the script was great. This movie is actually really funny. And I thought that it's telling a story that needs to be told right now, and I'm hoping that it gets as well received as I feel like it should, because I think this movie really is a great film and one of the best biopics I've seen in a while, because normally they're really dry and boring, but this one was very vibrant and alive, and I'm sure part of that has to do with the people the biopic is about, but I feel like this script kept everything very interesting and very good throughout the whole movie. I'm going to give Straight Outta Compton an A-. It is an amazing movie covering an amazing story that chronicles the group that was probably the most defining group of the late 80s for the world and one of the most defining groups of all time. As always guys, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Straight Outta Compton, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.